Yes, we want you to get involved in this evening's show, and as a little incentive, we got 2 tickets to a final of your choice, as well as a GAANOW goodie bag to give away. Just hit like and pop a question or comment in the comment section below this video, and you'll be entered into the draw. Entries will be accepted until Friday midday, so if you're watching on demand, you can still enter until then. And you can get your tickets now at gaa.ie/tickets and all participating SuperValu and Centra stores. Well, it should be some hurling league, Allianz Hurling League this year. So much to look forward to. All the big guns are in Division 1 as usual, but it's intriguing down the lines as well. In Division 1A, Cork, Galway, Limerick, All-Ireland champions Tipperary, Liam Cahill's first stint in charge of Waterford, and Shane O'Brien newly promoted Westmeath after Joe Quaid's great work last year as well. Division 1B, that's enticing too. Carlow, Clare, Dublin looking to rejuvenate after last year, Cody building hard in Kilkenny, Laois with Eddie Brennan, and Wexford with the man himself, Davy Fitz. That'll be a tight division. So too will Division 2A. You've got Antrim, Kerry, Mayo, all great work going on there. Meath as well. Michael Fennelly's first year in charge of Offaly, and Wicklow make up that Division 2A as well. And in 2B, David Herity's Kildare are right there, and David, you'll have busy times there against the likes of Derry, Down, lots of work going on in London, Roscommon trying hard over the last few years, and Warwickshire as well. Interesting to see what they bring. Division 3A, all the usual suspects here: Armagh, Donegal, Longford, Louth, Monaghan and Tyrone. And Division 3B, Ryan 3B, Cavan, Fermanagh, Lancashire, Leitrim and Sligo. And Dave, just in your own position, Kildare senior hurling manager, your second year in charge, have you learned much in your first stint?
Massive, yeah. No, I suppose last year when I was brought in, I was ratified close enough to the start of November, so there was a bit of, you know, there was a bit of a rush to try and get your panel together, and we ended up unfortunately losing 16 lads off the panel between the 2018 Christy Ring winning team and the start of the 2019 league. So, look, that was a huge blow, but thankfully throughout the whole year we've had a mild bit of success in the fact that we've retained a lot of last year's panel, and just heading into this year's league, it's chalk and cheese really. Just even formations, knowing the players, knowing exactly where you're at, knowing their strengths, moves that you can make in a match. So it can be hugely difficult sometimes, especially as you go down the grades.
Yeah.
To try and wonder who you're actually going to get back, whether a team might go on a long run through the club championship, which you see Derry in our group as well, and the Slough-Nail lads. I'm sure John McAvoy will be wondering, and Johnny McGurk, will you get many of the Slough-Nail lads back? So but it's extremely competitive 2B, but hopefully we'll get it.
Even from, I don't know how you last 16, Dev.
Yeah,
the new manager.
You do start looking at yourself there when you start looking down through the list, but it's.
I was going to ask you about that before Daly picked up on it. How frustrating was that, Dave? Because you come from a county where hurling is just religion, and to go to Kildare where they're not all committing straight away to you.
Yeah, the only thing is that, you know, at the time, the blessing in disguise was the fact that you didn't know the lads fully. You know, you're pretty much cold calling the lads and asking them, will they come on board? And you know, at the time it was kind of difficult enough to know. It was a bit like Jerry Maguire knowing, do I spend all my time with one lad, or is the next one then, what way do you work it? But you're delighted to know that as the year goes on, you get to know these lads, and you get to know their personalities, and you know who you're.
You have to move on as well, like.
You see,
don't want to play it.
You know. I see the same with Eddie Brennan there as well. He would have spoken about his frustration there. He would have talked about the success that he had last year or throughout this year, that he was hoping that he'd have an influx of new lads for this year's league, but he's only got 1 or 2 extra. like it can happen in different years, but you know, if you have a bit of success, they might tend to drop off. Other lads then get a little bit of success and they want to jump on board. But look, I'm delighted with the panel we have. We're miles ahead of where we were last year, and you're hoping to get off to a nice win now against London on Sunday. You
know from your own experience, Anthony, even in club management in Kerry, the absolute passion and fanaticism that is there in weaker counties, but for the game that they love as well. And an old sparring mate of yours, John McAvoy, he's up in Derry this year. You know, he was involved with Dublin when you were there. Yeah. And he's a madman of passion as well, isn't he? And what he'll bring to that team up there.
Yeah, and Leash man, but ex-St. Kieran's man as well, Johnny, you know, and Johnny McGurk on with him as well. So, yeah, I know they made significant progress last year under the two boys. They'll be hoping, as David said, if a couple of the Schlockneil boys, but of course the best of those are probably Derry footballers as well. Yeah. So it's a bit of a juggling act. But sure, yeah, there's a bit of new stuff everywhere, I suppose, really. I suppose the most intriguing thing you'd look at out there would be the Offaly scenario, you know, between right at the top with Michael Duignan gone in as chairman. You'd be saying that's huge. Like if you were Mick Finlay, you're really kind of saying that's where you know, that's the kind of chairman I'd want to bring it forward. Yeah. So I think everybody will be looking at that. Antrim made good ground last year with Darren Gleeson. I think they'll be looking at that as well. So that is intriguing. Like Kerry said, Fintan O'Connor, great work, lovely style of hurling, a lot of good new young lads gone in as well. And you know, bringing it up then to Division 1, I suppose it looks like you've kind of 9 big hitters. And the 3, now Eddie won't thank me for saying that because of the progress they made last year. But at the same time, people will be looking at Laois and saying, can you get the next kick now? I know myself from starting with Dublin, we got a bit of a kick early on and then you get the odd setback. So that'll be interesting to see how they handle that right from Saturday night. As we drive up to Division 1, but just to go back to maybe the levels again, guys, can I ask you about, with the Celtic Challenge, it's across the 32 counties. Everybody's playing at an even keel. There's huge strides being made. Westmeath, Carlow, Kildare, Meath. There's a hurling revolution going on in those counties in their own little way. But how hard is it to get up to the level, and what level of support do you need as well, just from outside forces? Yeah, look, even on Sunday now, we've a double header with the footballers, the Kildare footballers. You know, Jack O'Connor's taking on Fermanagh afterwards, but that's massive for us. The same way we've done another double header. We're both playing Roscommon, but just getting the crowds in, and you're hoping then that the support flows, but also, you know, you have to make sure that you're playing a brand of hurling, a style of hurling that the supporters are going to come in, that they're going to enjoy watching, and that they're going to come back again and again. But there's massive work going on in these in the developing counties, and it's just a, you know, and Kildare would have seen it there last year when they went on a very good run through the Leinster minor campaign. But it's just about putting in progress the steps, and trying to make sure that there is that continuity, that there is a conveyor belt coming up, and keeping lads interested. And the great thing is about the structure of the Christie Ring is that you are finished in June, you know, so it is a shortened season. The players, same with the Nicky Rackard and Lowry Mart, that there is a shortened season, so it keeps players interested, and they're able to, you know, go travelling if they want at the end of the year. But I suppose it's a bit double-edged, that, David, in that, you know, you feel a lot of the bigger counties then go on into kind of July hurling top class stuff, and the other lads are gone out of it, and I find that a bit of a, you know, two-edged. So I know it makes it easier for them to commit because they know exactly what they're getting into. And see, that's the big thing. Like, it is a matter of trying to get them in the door and get committed and try and make it enjoyable and try and get the victories. But like, if you were to talk to certain lads in developing counties and kind of go, you're coming in November, which everyone goes back in November at this stage, and you're saying we're going to go all the way to August, well, then that's the whole summer gone. That's a hard sell. It is a hard sell, especially when you're not dealing with Liam McCarthy and you're not dealing with the live games there week in, week out. So it is a case of... But while we have the glamour with the hurling the last couple of years, the glamour has been great. Teams have bought into the Joe McDonagh, the Christie Ring, and the new round-robin systems in Munster and Leinster have worked so well, Damien. I think we have to try and make hay in the counties that have a real interest in the hurling. Give them exposure, I mean. Well, get in and give them more help. Like Martin Fogarty would be an infectious guy, I'd say. You know, from what I know of him, he'd be a brilliant guy. But he probably needs more support as well, you know, and would need to driving it on, giving every help. Because really it has to happen at the lowest level in terms of age. Like, you have to get them good basics, speeding up the hurling. I even know myself, like, if I can go back as far as I'm back, the first thing Gerald Nan looked at us and said, we're just hurling too slow. Yeah, and he just was demented with getting our hurling quicker and quicker, and that eventually paid off. The likes of Naas are getting out of the county. They're playing in Dublin under 9, 10 and 11. They're playing in your native county, Kilkenny, under 16 minor. They're trying to maybe crack on and play junior. Is that going to help them, and would that help Kildare in turn? Look, it will. It'll be massive. You know, I suppose the only
side effect to that is that Naas are growing bigger and bigger, and you know, they won everything this year between clean sweep across every single grade. Like, so it's trying to make sure as well that although you are trying to improve Naas, but you're also trying to make sure that it's a bit like Ireland as well, in one county as well. You're making sure that it's spread out and that the other different clubs as well, that they're developing as well. But
well, you did that. You have plenty of players from around Kildare in your squad.
Definitely, yeah. No, we've made sure
nine clubs nearly, have you?
Yeah, we've made a conscious decision to, you know, across the grades as well. So it's you know, we're delighted that we have that. But you see again there with the likes of Slough-Nail, like they proved against Ballyhale with 8 seniors there in an All-Ireland semi-final. They brought them all the way to the last few minutes. So again, the hurlers are there in the counties, the interest is there, and the massive turnout there in Newry. So it is a case of, you know, it is about funding, getting the development in these other counties.
My final question to you, Anthony, on this issue. You've managed it at the top level, and you will again, I'm sure. But if you're in charge of an emerging county, do you have to show leeway to your players in order to get them to commit? And David has done that, but what's your opinion?
I'd say you have to, and then you also are trying to demand great standards as well, and you want them to make that they'll feel that they're part of something special, something different here. So I suppose that's what David is trying to create there. It's, look, we're doing it our own way.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be personable as well, haven't you? You can't come in and just lay down silly rules that are there to be broken, sort of thing. So you have to be reasonable, I think.
Discipline codes.
Yeah, I think they'll give it back to you if you're reasonable as well.
Absolutely. You never back someone into a corner by putting in kind of these drinking bans. But as well, then, you know, like the club month, you have to respect it, because you have to let lads go back to the clubs and trying to build up with the clubs. This whole coming in and trying to pretend you're doing a club month, like we'll let them back for 4 league games and a championship match between the end of March and the start of the championship, because you have to start developing and you have to give the lads back and try and show what they've learned in with the county and bring it back to the clubs and improve there. OK, that's a lovely snapshot of life in the lower league, so thanks for that, lads. It all throws in this weekend again with everything to play for in the top divisions as well.
Champions begin their 2019 campaign with a victory.
Well done! What a goal! Liam Sheedy will be very pleased. They've got their opening 2 points. Gillan again, and he scored! Hodge Collins coming in at the angle. Reeves in the back of the net. Clare have beaten Kilkenny. And it's Casey. They need it, they get it. Wexford have beaten Tipperary.
Down and goal for Limerick.
Here's the opportunity for Jason Ford to finish.
Chance here for Wexford. Shot and goal, comes across the line, is still there, and it's in the net. This is a sweet victory for the home side.
Ball inside, the chance here and a goal for Brian Concannon. Deep into injury time, Jane Bennett has won it for Waterford. Waterford have overturned a 10-point half-time deficit.
Outstanding. Seamus Flanagan at the end of it. Limerick are in the league final.
All the way in! Goal for Waterford.
Gillan gets a touch. It's in the back of the net. Limerick are history makers.
Yeah, Aaron Gillan's flick there we just saw has shown how much hurling has just gone through the roof in recent seasons. Are we expecting another classic Allianz League in 2020 again, lads?
I think so, Damien, yeah. I think change in system, and maybe that's kind of reflected that we have a round robin now in Leinster and a round robin in Munster, so maybe there was a, you know, straight 6 teams in Division 1 and the relegation thing was, and that in some way has been removed. But I don't think these teams, you look at the group with the 4 Munster teams in it, Galway and Westmeath, like they won't be able to help it but go at each other, starting with the weekend, like, you know.
Yeah,
you're
straight off.
Yeah, absolutely. Limerick Tip, like, sure, you know, they won't go back from each other. Limerick will feel Tip kind of stole their All-Ireland, so they'll be straight at it.
They want to make a marker on Saturday night in Thurles, won't they, David? Limerick.
Absolutely, and especially everything that kind of happened during the off-season. I'm sure John Kiley will make sure that he wants to get back on track. They went out, they won the Munster League. You know, they've pretty much won everything over the last 2 years, bar that All-Ireland final last year where they just got caught in a hop with Kilkenny. But for me, they're still the team to beat. They still have the best panel. I think John Kiley has them in a perfect condition there. Especially he's nicely disciplined now after everything that's happened during the off season. They'll kick on now, and I think within the group, while another like the likes of Tipperary there, they'll only be coming back off their team holiday. It'll take a while to get in. Westmeath will struggle for a while to try and go up against these big guns. But then there's a lot of new management then between Waterford, Cork and Galway. I think Limerick just know their team, they know their management, they know their style of play.
Even in the Munster League, David, like the strength of the teams. Like,
Absolutely,
I was at the Tip game, but this is around the 18th or 19th of December now. People should have been at office parties. And I think he took off 2 of the young lads and he brought on David Dempsey and Tom Morrissey. It just goes to show, like, fellas with All-Irelands in their pocket, and he was saying, want to kick on and win this. So I think they're very anxious that they'll establish and kick on, and they're hungry again. It looked to be going all perfectly for them last year, and then just Kilkenny came with that savage hunger, and even though they would have anticipated Kilkenny coming with it, they couldn't really seem to match it.
They weren't able to deal with it.
Well, they nearly got there. I suppose controversial at the end, but they were beaten by the better team. They were the first to admit that on the day. But I think they'll have a major say. In terms of the strength of the panel, is there anyone really that can match them? Tip, obviously, that might sound wrong because they're the All-Ireland champions, but still Limerick, I think.
The only unfortunate thing is, like, with the likes of, when you look at the other side of the group then as well, Kilkenny have a nice little run in. Everyone on that side have the two, I suppose, the weaker of the teams, the Carlow and Laois. Like, you have to win 3 games pretty much to make the quarter-finals, but everyone will look at those 2 wins there, and then it'll be, the likes of Clare, Kilkenny. Kilkenny will have the 11 lads that were involved in last weekend's club finals. They'll have those lads coming back. They'll be well rested.
Will he not give them a bit of a break, will he?
I'll give them a month, but even you have the 2 weeks, then you have a week's break. I think he'll give them 3 weeks. Most of the lads already have hit the ground running. TJ's out in Dubai at the moment. Colin Fennelly might be heading off to South Africa now, so they'll get a bit of a break for 3 weeks. The Tyrone lads will be back in after about 2 weeks, and I think when round 3,
they'll miss 2 rounds and then back.
Miss 2 rounds, they'll have a week break, and then I think they'll be back for that Wexford match. And
that just might sharpen them up for later in the summer. If you're on the other side of the table, the temptation to go flat out from the start and then get ready to peak again in the summer, that's going to be hard to balance, guys. Is it? How would you get around that?
The thing I think with Kilkenny, it'll work extremely well for them because they'll be forced into, if you're Shane O'Neill in Galway there, you want to go out with a strong team because you actually want to get a bit of success after the year that they had. But Kilkenny will be forced into having those 11 lads gone for the first 2 games. He'll be forced to go right into the depths of his panel and give all these lads game time, and that'll keep them happy for the rest of the year, knowing that, geez, I'm in his plans. And then he start weaning back in the experienced lads back into the team, whereas some of the other teams, I think that's been the issue with Galway maybe for a while, that they've stuck with a cemented 15 team, and then when it comes to championship and things go wrong, they don't have those players with the experience then to move back.
Especially the new managements as well, Damien. They'll be anxious to get the crowd on their side, get a bit of momentum, get a couple of wins. I'm thinking Shane O'Neill, I'm thinking Brian Lohan, I'm thinking Liam Cahill. They'll be anxious that they'll get all Liam Cahill facing into Cork Sunday. That'll be a big one, like at home in Walsh Park. If he can get the win there. They played fairly well against Cork in the Munster League. I think there was only a goal in it or whatever. So they'll be anxious to get off to a start. Brian Lohan, Carlow coming to Ennis at the weekend. He'll be anxious to get that up and running. And the team with most momentum at the moment, would say, including maybe Limerick, I suppose you'd have to put them up there with them, or Wexford, obviously. Came from nowhere to win the Walsh Cup. Just following it kind of live on Twitter feeds, and then I eventually tuned into Wexford local radio, and the excitement and the noise and the crowd. I mean, they really have bought into this team and Davy's way, and I think they could be a real good bet for the league. Maybe they will want to keep winning, I think.
So just to touch on the new managers like Liam Cahill himself and Mikey Beavens, small enough crew. They obviously have a selector there as well. In maybe another county, there's probably a bigger back room. Every manager has their own approach. How would you see the likes of Lohan, Liam Cahill, Shane O'Neill, Shane O'Brien, as they approach their job? It'd be a different kind of attack, won't there?
Yeah, and I think, for 2 or 3 of them, they were appointed quite late, Damien, and it can be a bit more difficult putting your backroom team together. Now, I wouldn't be overly familiar with all the backroom teams, but I know from the Clare one, there'd be lads that worked with Brian, with UL and various places, fellas he's comfortable with, tidy enough backroom team than what we've experienced before, I suppose, and if you win, everything is right. But Brian being a kind of an iconic figure in Clare hurling, I mean, I think that's what we're looking at, maybe in a lot of ways.
Will Clare be more direct this year, do you think, in their style?
I think so. I think that'll be Brian's own style. But hurling has evolved as well, that it's nobody really just banging ball anymore that we did in our day. You have to use the ball. It's hard enough to win it, so you must use it now. And they'll be, look, he has he has managed Cratloe, he's managed you well. I mean, Cratloe are very much a possession-based club team, you know. You're thinking the likes of Conor McGrath, Podge, it's all movement and give and go. And so they'll bring a bit of everything, I think, but it will be slightly more direct, I'd say.
And that's what's needed, David, isn't it? A bit of everything these days.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, even I think Joe Quaid maybe fallen on the sword there last year when he went 2 sweepers against Cork in the All-Ireland, and you know, Shane O'Brien will have learned a huge amount. I know, although he's a new manager, but he's been in the backroom, he knows the team, so, and he's been appointed early, so he'll have a lot of work done. And I suppose some of the teams that are playing against Westmeath might be going out a bit of an experimental team, so even if he can get one solid victory against a Tip or Galway, Limerick, Waterford, I know they have 2 home games there, they have Waterford and Cork in the 2nd and 3rd round. You know, if they can get themselves a victory there at any stage, it'll be a huge boost to them.
This is probably a blunt enough question. Do Waterford need a great league more than anybody almost, just to get people back on side?
Well, you'd wonder about that, Damien, because they were in the final last year, you know, had a fantastic victory against Clare in the quarter-final, fantastic victory against Galway, and then, look, there's really, you have to say, Waterford, after the 2 seasons in Munster, they need to come out of Munster. But like, the best way of building momentum for Liam and that is getting a settled team, getting to know getting set positions for, we're even thinking Aussie straight off, I suppose, you know, and he's down a few fellas as well. The likes of Philip Mahoney, I'd say, would be a huge loss out of a circle.
Definitely.
They're a leader, like
you
know, that's it, like Nolly Connor's gone, you know, so
because
you have to establish new leaders, new guys there to take up that mantle.
I think it's key as well that he, you know, the whole sweeper is just abolished in that first match, that he makes sure that he has to have a different style, a different structure, that people aren't going back to the usual style. I think he just needs to go along and say, this is my stamp on the team. I think if he gets a few wins in the league, I think the key for him throughout the whole year is to make sure he gets 1 championship win at least and try and get away from that. They've gone 2 years now without it. If he can get a few wins in the Munster Championship, try and build up a good panel for that, I think that's where he's looking at.
And with Tipperary then, Anthony, and I'd be hoping the 2 of my clubmates, Jerry Cahill and Craig Morgan, can step up. But really, all the talk is about them doing back-to-back. But, you know, that's way off. How important is the Allianz League for Tipperary this year on the back of an All-Ireland win from last season?
It's a little bit an easier ride for Liam Sheedy in that, you know, he has won the ultimate. What the Tip fans crave for is that Liam McCarthy. Yeah. There was a lot of talk last year that he didn't play a lot of the younger lads, even after the beating in the Munster final. There was people talking that, you know, why hasn't he introduced more of these? But of course he wins the All-Ireland, everything is right, and I think you'll see an awful lot of these guys getting their chance now in the National League.
Chance for it, Dave.
Yeah, and again, you look at Cork. It's going to be it's fierce interest, and I think it's a great appointment, even having Ger Cunningham back there. You know, even you look at Eamon O'Shea, the amount of, maybe it was underrated pretty much, that he had so much experience of being a senior manager. You have Ger Cunningham coming down from his 3 years up in Dublin and be able to bring that, the pluses and the minuses that he would have had from that, to bring that into Kingston's background. I know at the moment they've 21 lads there involved with the Fitzgibbon team, so trying to find a balance at this time of the year between inter-county, the way things are going, if UCC keep going the way they're going, same with Matty Kenny up in Dublin with DCU, the 2 of them should be facing off in the final. Pretty much some of these players will be playing 3 games in six days. It's massive. The 2 of them are down. They're the 2 worst hit between the Fitzgibbon and inter-county, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can get that balance right and make sure they keep the freshness.
That's a tough one, yeah. I think, and you've a couple of lads with CIT with Cork as well, so it's a tough one. It's a whole schedule of where to the Fitzgibbon and Sigerson move. My own opinion, maybe before Christmas, and have a good final. You know, might clash with the club the way we're planning that. But
the clash wouldn't be severe though.
I don't think it'd be the odd year a lad or 2 would be caught, but mostly it'd be clear.
We've got Facebook questions. I'm going to throw one each at you. Mark Darcy contacted us on Facebook Live. Anthony, to you first of all. Do you think your old friend Brian Cody can bring back silverware to Kilkenny?
Well, God, I suppose it's three years ago that we were saying, well, look, it's going to be an awful tough time with the lads that were gone and everything. But you just think of the league 2 years ago, they won that league, little trip to Australia out of it at the end of it. Like, and you only go back to last weekend, and Damien, the 3 Kilkenny clubs win junior, intermediate, and senior. So, I mean, like, look, Kilkenny are going to be there. Like, I mean,
I know it's not a whole new. You know, he's one of the counties that doesn't have a new management, but like our manager, but. With Martin Comerford and DJ Carey and Mickey Comerford, I'm hearing great things about Mickey Comerford coming in there, a freshness after Mick Dempsey left after 15 years. But the likes of DJ and Martin are right up Cody's street. You know, game plan, get the ball. You know, he'd often would have referred back to the 2 of those lads when it came to championship. DJ with a famous quote of the only bad ball into a forward is the one that doesn't come in. And Martin Comerford, like, you know, he'd a hand on him like a front loader. Yeah. Every ball was straight in, and that's exactly what Cody will want.
Johnny Luby contacted us on Facebook. He wants to know, where do you think can Limerick specifically improve from last year?
Well, there mightn't be a whole pile of improvement needed. Coming out of the Gaelic grounds after the Munster final, Damien, I thought we were after witnessing one of the most complete performances. Obviously, maybe the little layoff then. Kilkenny coming out, beating Cork, got the tails back up after losing the Leinster final, and just Kilkenny, I don't think, for Johnny, I don't think there's a whole pile. I think these guys won in All-Ireland when they were really young. They're 2 years into it now. I know myself, that break year, maybe, it gives you that bit of extra hunger as well. Although they did win the league and win Munster, I think they're going to come out really hungry, more mature lads now as well. And
Clare 97 maybe, that's what they could be.
Well, I think if you look at it from the outside, you have to say that they'd be justifiable favourites.
Okay. All right. That's us nicely set up for the hurling. Just a reminder of the weekend's fixtures now before we turn our attention to football. What a cracker to start us off on Saturday night in Semple, Tipperary and Limerick. And then Galway and Westmeath, they take each other on Sunday, Pearse Stadium. Lean Cahill, as Daly says, Walsh Park, he hosts Cork. Laois take on Wexford. That'll be an explosive one on the sideline on Saturday. And on Sunday, Cody's Kilkenny take on Dublin. On Saturday 25th, 2A, Mayo play Kerry. And Sunday's Wicklow and Antrim. And Mick Fennelly's first go out against Meath. Division 2B, Roscommon and Warwickshire. And on Sunday, David's out against London and Newbridge. And Derry tackle down. On Sunday, it's 3A, course, Donegal and Armagh, Monaghan and Longford. And Louth take on Tyrone and Darver. And on B, it's Lancashire versus Cavan on Saturday. And on Sunday, Fermanagh versus Leitrim. And that's at Brewster Park. And you can get your tickets now at GAA.ie/tickets and all participating SuperValu and Centra stores. But my thanks to Anthony and David for your excellent company. Thanks a million, lads. We'll be back in just a moment with Kieran, Donaghy and Jack Sheedy to look at the football. Don't go away.
Great touch. Well done.
The Allianz Leagues, where your edge belongs.
You're welcome back. Now we turn our attention to football. I'm delighted to introduce some footballing royalty into our studio. Kieran, Donaghy and Jack Sheedy, you're most welcome along again, you guys. We'll be chatting to the lads in just a moment, but first of all, a chance for you at home or on the go to win some great prizes. Yes, we want you to get involved in this evening's show, and as a little incentive, we got 2 tickets to a final of your choice, as well as a GAANOW goodie bag to give away. Just hit like and pop a question or comment in the comment section below this video, and you'll be entered into the draw. Entries will be accepted until Friday midday, so if you're watching on demand, you can still enter until then. Yeah, you can get your tickets now at GAANOW.ie/tickets and all participating SuperValu and Centra stores. Well, it should be a cracking Allianz football season ahead of us. And it's more important now this year than ever before. We'll get to that in just a moment. But look at Division 1. Look at the teams there. Donegal, Dublin, Galway, Kerry, Mayo, Meath, Monaghan and Tyrone. Battle royales everywhere you look. And Division 2 is just as exciting. Kieran McGinney's Armagh, Cavan, Clare, Fermanagh, Kildare, Laois, Roscommon, Westmeath. All teams of a similar standard looking to push up to Division 1. And here's where it gets really interesting this year in 2020. Division 3. This will decide a two-tier competition as well, the placings. Cork, Derry, Down, Leitrim, Longford, Louth, Offaly and Tipperary there as well. And trying to get out of Division 4 up to Division 3, two big guns there at the top. Antrim and Carlow, Limerick, London, Sligo, Waterford, Paul Galvin's Wexford and Davy Burke's Wicklow, all looking to get up. OK, that's the scene set. Kieran, I'll come to you first of all. It's a particularly interesting Allianz League this year with all that's going on with the two-tier competition. How would you place the Allianz League 2020 in the overall scheme of things?
It's definitely gone up in importance and continues to go up in importance, but I think especially for Division 3, there's huge Division 2, Division 3, not to get relegated out of Division 2, and obviously to go up from Division 3 has huge ramifications for county boards and clubs and delegates and teams in them counties to go forward. But looking at Division 1 there's going to be some great games, mouth-watering clashes, great teams. And yeah, you've teams that obviously want to get out of Division 4. Nobody wants to be in Division 4, but looking at it, there is good teams down there that want to try and get out. So no matter what way you look in the national leagues this year, there's going to be good games everywhere. What catches your eye, Jack, from Divisions 1 to 4?
Yeah, I think probably, as Kieran has said, Division 3 is, it's loaded with aristocrats from the game from a few years back. They were really, Cork, Derry, Down, playing in All-Ireland finals, league finals in the last, 10, 12 years. So that's going to be a tough one. You lose a game in that. And they're playing against teams the likes of Louth, Longford, Leitrim, Tipperary, who are really, really pushing hard. They've been developing at underage level through their under-20s and their minors. And they're going to be, they're pushing hard to try and get away from, say, the bottom tiers of Division 4 and get back up into, the higher echelons. Down in Derry, in particular, have been on a slide for a couple of years. So, there's a new emphasis there for them. New manager in Derry with Rory Gallagher. So, there's a lot to be played for.
Kieran, a lot of people have made mention of the two-tier championship and the need to get off to a great start in the league so they can get out of Division 3 and not be in a two-tier championship in the summer. And what would be your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't be necessarily sure about that. I think there'll be certain teams in Division 3 and Division 4 that will relish a chance at winning a Tier 2 competition. And I think this is the thing that has to be really focused on is how good of a job are the GAA going to do on promoting the Tier 2 competition. What relevance is it going to get on TV? What kind of scheduling is it going to get? How much promotion of it is going to be? They're all going to be very important things. But I think there'll be some of them counties, course doesn't, the likes of, I would say, Cork, who pushed Kerry really hard last year, who pushed Dublin and Croke Park in the Super 8s. I'm sure they'll be kind of saying to themselves, OK, we need to get out of this to make sure we're guaranteed a crack at Sam next year. We don't have to be relying on winning a Munster Championship in 2021. But for me, I think there'll be a lot of teams in Division 3 and Division 4 will take the disappointment of being in that, but once that they see it's done right, like we talked about earlier on, Jack, about the hurling, about teams winning the different tiered competitions and the excitement that there is around Croke Park in them days and the buzz there is, and I've even seen my own county Kerry win competitions and the buzz that the players get out of them, and that all their training for all year is actually rewarded at the end with a highlight, with a trophy, with pictures on the pitch. There's memories there, there's a bit of extra camaraderie for those guys going on in their lives. They'll be able to look each other in 20 years across the say and say, yeah, we were in Croke Park and we did it together. Whereas I think, if there's certain counties that are in the bottom two tiers that are ending up every year at the end of a hockeying, and I think we see the players fall out and the amount of guys stepping away from the game. There's two things I think for that is, one, it ends in a hiding. You're getting a lot of grief, social media, press around your own county. And, you know, that's not helpful for anybody. And then there's the length of the season. These guys are starting training in October, November, and it's a 7 or 8 month thing. And there's I would say there's an awful lot of them looking at the end of what was it all about.
You're a former Longford manager, Jack. What would be your perspective, having been there for a competition like this? I spoke to Mickey Quinn several times over the last few years, and he'd love to have a crack at this. What would you think yourself, based on what you know?
Yeah, I think you have to play at a level that you can compete at, because, as Kieran has said, you're playing against maybe Division 1 teams in the first round of the championship. Going into it, realistically, you've no chance. So if you're playing at a level against, say, Division 4 and Division 3 teams at that level, you have a much better chance of success. So the buy-in may take a little bit of time, and Kieran mentioned it in terms of how it's marketed, how it's sponsored, how it's supported, how it's presented, and if it gets the right workings, it has a great opportunity. And yeah, there are lads who say, no, we want to be playing against the better teams. That's understandable. But the reality is the teams at that level cannot compete with the higher echelon teams. So therefore, present them with a competition that they can compete in consistently, develop, have a bit of fun, and enjoy doing what they're doing, have a target where they can progress, because they're not progressing. Teams are not progressing. In fact, the gaps are getting wider. You take the top 8 teams out of the country, and teams are falling further away.
Well, if anything, what this has already done is, as you said from the start, Kieran, put an unbelievable credence on the league. Suddenly, every team has something to play for, even more so with the ups and downs that are involved.
Yeah, and you see that in the league. You see the Division 3 and the Division 4 finals in the league. There's great excitement in Croke Park. People are delighted to get their hands on the trophy. There's success at the end of the league, and that can be simulated in championship for these teams. And if you want your crack at the big guns, you got to go away and you got to get promoted out of Tier 2 or win the Tier 2 championship to get in against the Tier 1 teams. But now you're coming in with a bit of momentum. You're coming in with a bit of belief in yourself. You've had a good season the year before. Now there's maybe guys that weren't on board earlier on the year before, and I was saying, hold on a minute, no, these guys have to come on a bit. Let's have a crack at Sam Maguire or whatever. The structures will take place. But I think certainly when you look at the league finals weekend, for example, and you've got your Division 1, Division 2 on the same day, and in Division 3 and Division 4, there's serious excitement around that weekend, and there's teams with champions with trophies to go after. And there's nothing better for a player than to win something with your mates, or even losing a heartbreaking final. Teams will learn an awful lot from that. They'll come back and they'll reevaluate for the championship, and they'll say, okay, well, look, we lost this game because of this. But I think that the way teams are sometimes losing games, Jack, at the end of seasons, they're losing heavily. There's nothing. The manager can't take much out of it. I don't think the players can take much out of it. And I think the leagues this year will have great importance, because really and truly, we spoke about it earlier on outside, like the provincial championships they're not what they were. They're not. The levels have gone. The top teams have gone so far out in front that they're not a marketable thing. And if you're looking for somebody to get behind it, it's hard for people to get behind provincial championships because there's so many one-off beatings.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that maybe slightly be forgotten is that if you have your county team in Division 3 or Division 4, you're trying to develop young lads coming along to see them play, and there is no enthusiasm for kids coming along to see their team being beaten consistently, because they mix and they go to school and they go to college and all of that in later years, and there's no enthusiasm in it at all. I think if the young lads are coming in your under 14 development squad are coming to see your county team playing in a championship encounter, and they have a realistic chance, and they're playing against teams of their own level, it'll inspire them. I think it'll give them a great bit of enthusiasm for stepping up to the next level and pushing on. And it's more tangible as well. It's far more tangible. It gives the kids something to really aim at, and I think it'll help them much better.
It gives them motive to get up in the morning and go kick a ball off a wall or kick a ball over a bar. There's no way they're going to do that after watching their team get demolished, you're not going to be out the next day with your county jersey kicking a ball. That's what we all did. We all went to Munster finals on a Sunday and saw Kerry, whether they won or lost, it was a rip-roaring game. The next morning you wanted to go do something like that.
And what makes it even more compelling this time around, guys, it's just a quick word on the rule changes that are coming. We'll pick out two, the sin bin and the advanced mark. I'll have to go to you on the advanced mark, Kieran. It's probably there to solve a problem that's not quite there anymore in Gaelic football, maybe a year too late, but how will it go down, and will it be hard for referees to police?
Yeah, look, I think when both rules, I think the hardest thing is like our refs do as good a job as they can do with so much going on around them. When they're one guy out in the middle, they have so much to contend with, and I think we're really loading them stuff that really they don't need to be loaded with. No, we were joking outside about it, if it's a South Kerry final and it's Drummond Pierce's and St Mary's like it was this year, and there was plenty going on in the game. How is that umpire going to keep track of 2 black cards? Some fella's gone for 5 minutes, some fella's gone for 4 minutes. And you know, even the thing now that the black card, if a guy has a black card, his clock starts, and even if there's stoppages for injuries or fellas are slowing it down, his time still is going. So I think that's going to drag games. I think people are going to be falling down, holding their heads.
Right.
But to go back to your question on the mark, you know, I was a fan of it in a regard that I thought it would promote more teams going long and direct inside, and that a fella would go up, and what used to happen is you'd go up and catch it and you'd land and fellas would hold you and take it off you, and they wouldn't even jump at you sometimes. Whereas, you know, I think this thing of hand up and hand down, I think the ref, if there's a big ball comes into the square between me and Jack and he's got a sweeper helping him out as he would have against me, and so the ball, if the ball came in, and there's many times I caught a ball and landed and I couldn't even wriggle out of trouble to get a hand pass off, never mind put my hand up to try and call a mark with the ref. They won't let fellas put their hands up, they'll be in on top of you before you do it, so it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, you get pulled for an elbow anyway. So
I get pulled for overcarrying as well.
The likes of Colin McShane and Matty Donnelly absolutely clung to it last year. In the league, it worked great for them.
And Tommy Walsh as well.
Yeah,
it worked out.
It did early in the year
well
for him.
at different stages.
Let's see how it goes. There's a full season ahead, and for now, that's the housekeeping done. The new football season is just ahead of us, and we turn our attention to the top brass in Division 1.
This is Fionn McDonagh. McDonagh's in goal! Mayo have won here. Morgan has hit that one beautifully. He scored from open play.
It's a Kerry goal, and it's Stephen O'Brien who's got it. Kerry have beaten Dublin. Coma Costello, beautiful control. What a shot, what a goal! Rafferty has support from Peter Hart. Goal! Tyrone record their first victory. Johnny Heaney, Danny Cummins, goal for Galway. Galway continue their winning run against Mayo.
Colin McShane, beautiful finish. Dublin have lost for the 3rd time in this year's league.
Danny Cummins, that's risky, and Rory Labelle is out of his goal. Here's Matty Donnelly. Donnelly into the back of the net. Tyrone have finished this league in style.
Matthew Ruan has buried it. Mayo have finally come good at Croke Park.
Yeah, Mayo lifting last year's cup, but it's with Dublin I'm going to start this time around. Jack, Jim Gavin gone, Desi Farrell in. Can you assess the potential change there?
It's going to be a hard one to assess, Damien, because Desi has come through with so many of those lads that are in the senior team now. He produced them at under 21 level, and you know, he's going to be dealing with a lot of them, possibly looking for a few new faces. But I can't see a huge amount of change in the overall scheme of things, because Desi, like Jim, he's very analytical. He's he was a forward as well. He's a guy that'll want to go and win games as much as possible. That was his style with his under-21 teams and also his minor teams as well. So I think in terms of the style of play, I think there will be. He will probably have his own subtle little changes, but I think, you know, don't try to fix something that's not broken to a large extent, and that'll be probably the general policy going forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kieran, there was a lot of outside views that, oh, Gavin is gone, the rest of us have a chance, but they're not replacing him with any Joe Soap either. This guy's won an All-Ireland minor as a manager and an All-Ireland 21, apart from all his other achievements as a player.
Absolutely, yeah, he's a very sharp, shrewd guy, and he's dealing with a lot of sharp players as well. So, you know, I think within that dressing room, even Cluxton staying on is a big
Huge.
one. I think there's a huge amount of self-discipline within that group that, you know, Jim and I'd say Stephen would have demanded out of the group for a long time. So I think Desi will come in, and as Jack said, he might have 1 or 2 changes, but, you know, he's got a fantastic team. He's got an unbelievable bunch of players, and they're going to be right there again this year, looking to make it 6 in a row.
Yeah, I suppose as Jack said, bringing on new players is probably one priority at some stage during the season.
Where are they going to go, Damien?
I think my day's gone. My day never was. Your own county, Kieran, brought on a load of youngsters with Peter last year. David Clifford is 21 this week. He's also become the Kerry captain. You have no doubts about him at all, do you, as leader of the team?
No doubts. An extraordinary young man with... he seems like he's 27 or 28, dealing with him. Disciplined. The best long-range kicker I've ever seen of a football up close. He kicks it from outside the 45 like it's outside the 21.
Is that just pure technique?
It's technique, yeah. Yeah, you can tell it's honed. And I saw a picture of him recently, like of his leg way above his head and the size of the muscles on his leg. It was, you know, he's a fantastic kicker of a ball, but he's very level-headed. He's fiery when he needs to be. He can keep it in control. He's very good when he speaks. Everybody listens already. I think when he spoke his first year in with us when he was 18, you know, when he spoke, people stopped and listened. We knew, and we'd watched him all the way up at what he'd done, and you know, he'll play it down as like, oh, there's lots of leaders in the dressing room. I heard him talking during the week, and
he has that support there.
And he's right to say that, and it's a perfect thing to say, but he'll be the guy that when the chips are, you know, in the fire later on in the year, and you know, there's decisions to be made and there's big scores to be taken, and I think he's already a kind of a huge kind of iconic figure to the young kids in Tralee and in Killarney and all over Kerry. But I think now when he kicks the point, he'll have the crowd will rise even more because he's the captain and he's our leader out there. And
Jack, just to go west for a second, you know, Kerry were busy building last year with the likes of Clifford, Shawnee O'Sullivan, Shawnee O'Shea, Mayo. What will happen this year? James Horn's back in his second stint. He's got a good long hard look at it last year. Will he need a lot of new blood as well, in your opinion?
Probably not as much as people think. He's brought in quite a few, Fionn Carr last year. He's the nucleus of a good bunch of young players who've come through the under 20 and 21 system there, and they got a tough year last year. But I think, again, they'll have benefited hugely from that. And he's some right good players there, Matthew Ruan as well. And again, he lost some of them at key times that they came back, but they weren't really as fit when they were needed because of injuries and stuff like that. Okay. So I think that'll stand to them a lot. I know, they've lost a few, and there's a few guys with a lot of mileage on the clock and that sort of thing. So there will be questions more so about some of the older guys. Have they really got as much appetite to really drive on hard and try and kick it on again with the impetus of the new lads and the younger lads coming through? But generally and very often that can be the catalyst for the older guys to absolutely maybe just up their game a little bit.
They can come in under the radar a bit as well, can't they? A small bit this year, whereas
certainly
a lot of the years they were just coming off the back of an All-Ireland final where they pushed that great Dublin team so close, and they were kind of automatically they were being looked at as they'll be right there again next year.
That's a great point. They are under the radar this year.
They're a small bit under the radar, which is dangerous for everybody else, because that Mayo team is a lot of good leaders and good players, and as Jack said, a few nice young fellas coming through. So I think they'll be really pushing this year.
Anybody else float your boat? Like you've got connections to Tyrone, Kieran. McShane's a huge one, whether he stays or goes. But what would you feel Mickey Harte will need to do in this league? Will it just be steady, or will he look to blood new players? He's blooded a lot of them over the last 2 or 3 seasons, in fairness.
Yeah, I think he has blooded a lot of them, and he has a turnover now, and this is kind of his team. We're gone from the kind of transition phase, really, where he was losing a lot of that great team. Right. So I think it's more about solidating that now and finding fellas, getting used to each other's. I played with Cullum in the corner, I played with Galvin outside me. I got used to what way they'd turn, we got used to the kind of ball they were going to put in, what type and when they'd put it in. Would they take it solo? I knew Darren would get it, Darren O'Sullivan would turn onto his left and ping one on the outside of the left. I knew Declan Sullivan would get it, he'd look up if it wasn't on, he'd take off in a solo run. So there's that understanding that has to happen with teams, and you look back at the last great Tyrone team that won it, they had that understanding. They had Mulligan, O'Neill, Canavan, they all knew each other, they had the workers in the half forward line, they knew what they were about. And I think that's what Tyrone have to do during this league, is actually really identify with themselves and find out what they're about this year, because they've got great players, and I think Max Shane will be back. I really do.
Okay.
I think if that's something that happens, it might be next year.
And Jack, finally for you, the likes of Galway, Meath, Monaghan, plenty to play for, plenty to prove too.
Yeah, and I think Galway could be, they might surprise people a little bit this year, because Porrig going in, I think he'll give them a big lift, because he was such an iconic player. He will give them a huge lift in there.
Change of style, Jack.
And definitely, definitely. But again, he may have to cut his cloth to suit what he has. They're not suddenly going to turn into a top 4 team, which they haven't been close enough for that. Meath this year, it's a big jump up for them, coming from Division 2 up to Division 1. They're going to have to show a level of consistency in a big way. Donegal, I think, they got a great year last year, playing in Division 2, coming back up to Division 1. They unearthed it. They're a very young team, bar maybe 3 or 4 lads, and they're going to be very strong.
Well, that sets us up for a nice weekend. And just before we go from Division 1, here's a look at the fixtures for this weekend. Park and Croquet Saturday night, Dublin and Kerry. What a cracker that is. Donegal and Mayo up in Ballybuffet. Mickey Harte's Tyrone hosts Meath in Oma, and Joycey's out in Pearse Stadium on Sunday against Monaghan. Division 2 is cracking as well. Armagh hosts Cavan. Westmeath and Clare, there won't be much in that. Roscommon take on Laois, and Jack O'Connor's first time out against Fermanagh. Division 3, Tippendown and Clonmel, Longford and Louth in Pearse Park, Cork versus Offaly, and Derry versus Leitrim then in Celtic Park. Then Division 4, Fraherfield, Waterford versus Limerick, Turlough O'Brien's Carlow up against Wicklow, Davy Burkdale Antrim against Wexford, Paul Galvin's Wexford, and London against Sligo. So it's a busy weekend, and you can get all of your tickets now at GAA.ie/tickets and all participating SuperValu and Centra's stores as well. So my thanks to our guests, Jack and Kieran, for their company this evening. We'll be back with more over the course of the season. And don't forget, you can catch all the match action and highlights on demand on the GAA Now platform. But that's it for this edition of GAA Now Live. Until next time, Slán agus beannacht.
Great touch. Good stuff. Well done.
The Allianz Leagues, where your edge belongs.